evening. Welcome. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're out here doing several meetings with the towns and the villages and everything. Let you know what Marathon County has taken on in the next year to 18 months here as one of our projects. And to see to let everybody know what's going on and keep the public informed. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dean Johnson. I'm the zoning administrator for Marathon County. Jeff Pritchard is the planning analyst for the county. Tonight we also have Richard Dewar, who is on our task force, citizen task force for the zoning comprehensive revision. He's actually our chair of that. John Majalski and Dennis Derringer are also members of this task force. And I'll talk about what their roles are and responsibilities and what they're going to be doing in the next year or two as part of this process. So we're to our third meeting here. We have 3 more to go. Last night we were out in the town of Easton. We were out in the village of Marathon City on Monday doing this exact same presentation, trying to get out as much as possible and talk to all the residents. Outcomes for tonight. We want to make sure that the residents feel that their comments and concerns are heard. Residents' comments are documented also as part of this. And then overall, for our zoning comprehensive revision, a zoning code that all towns find beneficial to them. That's our ultimate goal. What we are doing is taking our zoning code that's been around for 40 years, and we are what they call a comprehensive revision, which is basically rewriting the code. Putting it, and we'll explain where we're looking at going for goals and everything as we go through tonight. We have been in our office working on and going through and always wanting to be honest, kind, and respectful to our residents and our customers that we serve. And that's part of what we want to extend out here tonight with everybody here. There is going to be an audience participation portion of this that we want to make sure that all of the ideas will be considered and recorded as part of this. And we want to hear from everybody, but we don't want to have any personal attacks and then keep things general and then honest, kind, and respectful. So tonight, what we're looking at is we want to give a brief overview of what Zoning Wisconsin and Marathon County has been. Talk a little bit about relationship between towns and the county. Describe what text amendments are versus comprehensive revision. The short exercise that we'll have is this is where the audience participation comes in involved. We want to gather some information from you to take back to our task force, and then let you know how you can stay up to date on the revision process through that. So going right into zoning, there are 3 types that you have heard for years around here. We have the shoreline floodplain, which is state mandated and federally mandated. And then there's general or comprehensive. This is where you would have your districts, your residential districts, your commercial districts, and that's where we're going to talk a lot tonight about, and that's where we're really focusing a lot of our effort on. So, the first zoning ordinance in Wisconsin was in Milwaukee in 1920, and then about 9 years after that, authority was actually given to rural areas and counties to actually come up with zoning ordinances, and that zoning can be done by a county. 1933, actually, Oneida County was the first one to write and adopt a rural zoning ordinance. Then, back down in '68 is when local governments were required to administer shoreline and floodplain zoning regulations. That came down to the county level from the state that we were required to do that. Then in 1977, Farmland Preservation Law came into effect. That gives farmers opportunities to collect tax credits if they meet certain criteria, zoning, contracts. And that's what we worked on last year for the county, for our towns that have farmland preservation districts. And then in 1999 was the comprehensive planning law. 99, 2000, 2001, you guys probably remember getting together and working on land use maps that were all like posted up in the back here, going through that process. And that's going to be coming up here soon too, which you'll see how these kind of play in with a comprehensive plan and the zoning work together. So why do we have zoning? It is one of the tools to achieve a community's goal as identified in your comprehensive plan. And you got to remember that comprehensive plan is your roadmap. And that's the base. You want how you want to see your municipality. It can be the village, the town, city. You always have this road. You have a roadmap or a plan. And zoning is a tool to use to achieve those goals. Right now, this is the status of Marathon County for zoning. If you look at the yellow ones, these are the ones that have adopted county's administered zoning. The gray are town zoned, they administer their own zoning. White have no zoning. And then the salmon or the pink color are cities and villages. So break it down, we have 18 county-zoned townships, 16 town-zoned towns, 7 towns with no zoning. All the towns are under shoreline and floodplain for the regulations, even if there's no zoning in those towns. Starting in 1972, Brighton was one of our first ones to adopt county-administered zoning, and the town of Halsey, as early as 2001, adopted into county zoning, all over 18. So when we talk county zoning, I usually say, I've been trying to say more of county administered zoning. It's still the town's zoning, and for permitting and all that, the town still has a lot of say in it. Everything starts out with that planning committee and the town board, and then it comes into our zoning staff. General permits, example for a single family home, they'll usually come into our office and those go out as a general permit. But any rezone, special exception permits, and always starting up with that town planning committee. And even with the town planning committee, when you're setting up your zoning districts, your comprehensive plan, they always have a big part in this along with the town board. Then it depends on what exactly if it's a special exception permit, conditional use permit, or a rezone, depending on which side it has to go to. This is even for a town that has their own zoning. For example, if they wish to have a change in their zoning code, still by state statute has to come to the county for approval. So it's still going to start out their town planning committee, town board, come into us, we would forward it on to our land conservation and zoning committee, and then on to the county board. The reason it goes to the land conservation and zoning committee, Marathon County, basically, nothing can go directly to the county board. It has to go through a working committee first. They're the ones that look at everything, and then they recommend approval or denials to the county board.
So you're saying, even a town that has no zoning, they still have to go to the county?
No, if they have no zoning, they wouldn't have anything that they would be going through this for zoning reasons. This would be for a town zoned, where they have their own.
I thought you said no zoning.
No zoning is a little different. They don't have to take any of their stuff through, because basically it's a local ordinance of some sort that they may have, but it wouldn't be required as a zone. They're not considered zoning. if they have anything that's a zoning code type, it has to, if it's county or municipal, it has to go through there. Cities and villages don't have to do that. So, ordinance revisions, comprehensive revisions. Many of you know, for 40 years, they've been text amendments is what has come out many times when you're talking about revising or doing something to the code. That alone, we're changing wording, we're doing stuff through there. What happens though is there's a state statute that talks specifically about when a town may basically consider not being under county zoning anymore. And the only time they can, once they adopt to leave county zoning, is through a comprehensive revision. So the county has to take on a comprehensive revision process. 40 years, it's always been text amendments. There's never been a comprehensive revision. This year, the county board has said we are doing a comprehensive revision. What does this mean? Towns will have, all towns that wish to stay under county zoning would have to readopt their the new zoning ordinance. And we'll explain the timeline down the road. But in 2013, we went out to a lot of towns and we did zoning for today and tomorrow. And today we gathered a lot of information about what was, what didn't the residents like, administrative-wise, what education would you like, all this. We grabbed a lot of information. We took it back and we did a bunch of text changes at that time to try to kind of catch up with the code a little bit. And now we're here doing the tomorrow part. Tomorrow, at that time, we promised that we were coming back with a comprehensive revision. So, what's part of this comprehensive revision? First off, we have a lot of districts. These are all of our districts that we have here. I know it's small, but what we're trying to do is actually compress them into a smaller number of districts. Easier to regulate, and for anybody that wants to come in and actually look at the code, it's a lot easier if you fall into one or two categories instead of, an example would be our general ag district are actually 8 districts. It depends on the size of the lots and that. So we're trying to reduce some of that down. Oops. What we're also doing is separating the codes. Right now, Chapter 17 has shoreline, floodplain, and general regulations all in the same code. We're splitting it out, and actually at the LCZ meeting, or Land Conservation and Zoning Committee meeting coming up first Tuesday of next month, which is like a little less than a week away from here, we're asking them to actually divide that out and split it out of the code at that time. Why are we doing this? State and federal mandates and rules and regulations are in the shoreline and floodplain regulations. General are more local driven. So what we look at as a staff is when we're working on the shoreline floodplain, when we get kind of told what we have to have as part of those regulations, we can focus on education to the public on what's in those. When you go over to the comprehensive and the general code, you can look at it and we can show, okay, we need to go out and have public input, education still, but there's more public input, gather information, all that from the public when we're talking about changes and doing all that as part of it. I touched on the comprehensive revision policy a little bit. State statute says once you adopt, you're in until another comprehensive revision. There's been 40 years that they've never done a comprehensive revision. Next month also, they're starting the discussion with the Environmental Resource Committee, which is our policy committee for the county, to have directly in the code an X number of years that we go through this process. That we would come out and that would be so many, and this is where the towns would have to relook at it if they wish to adopt and stay in county zoning at those times. They're looking at roughly about a 10-year period in there. Why 10 years? 10 years, there's state statute and laws to go with comprehensive plan to try to mirror those together. So when one's being updated, the other one gets updated at the same time. Other goals of the revision, we want to restructure the code. One thing that we've talked a lot about, a lot of towns are very reluctant of wanting to rezone a property out for certain reasons because they like the business activity or whatever the person wants to propose, but if they have to rezone it into a higher class district, there's a lot of uses that could be automatically if they walked away from the property at some times. So there's a lot of towns that aren't real thrilled at wanting to rezone in some of these times. Conditional use permits, what a lot of this happens is in certain cases they can get a conditional use permit to do what they're looking at doing there on the property, but the zoning stays the same. So when they're doing their, let's say it's a family business, I know one is out in this, I think it's in Tunnelweed actually does, they do corn planters, they rebuild corn planters. What he could do as a conditional use permit, he wouldn't have to rezone it in there, it could be a conditional use permit. When that use stops, if they would move in a time period that's listed, that would go away. But it would still stay that same residential, or that same zoning class. Because once you rezone, you can't put a condition on it as rezoned back to that original class. A lot of the other stuff is format friendly. We want to put in hyperlinks, everything, a lot of stuff is going digital, and just to make it a lot easier on there. Tables, charts, illustrations. Right now, our zoning code is, I think, 100 and some pages of words. I think there's 1 or 2 charts maybe in the whole thing. But a lot of times, there's a lot of people that says, well, it'd be nice to be able to pull one chart out and look at a quick reference of what can be done in those districts. Square footages, setbacks, all that, just on a chart where you can kind of see it. And somebody that's planning on wanting to do something, they could look at one thing instead of flipping through each district and trying to find and having to read it each one. As part of that. With this, hyperlinks, basically you'd be able to, when you're in the document, online, electronically, you'd be able to jump back and forth throughout the whole document. Right from the table of contents, you can scroll down, okay, I need to go to this section, you click there, it'll take you right to it. Certain things would have definitions, so you can click on it and hyperlink you over to the definition, and you can read it right there. Just the ease of use that way. Pyramid zoning, basically a lot of that is allowance of the same thing in multiple districts. We're trying to see where we're trying to get away from that a little bit. So you'd be in one district. Some of the stuff would be conditional uses that would be in there, but a lot of our stuff is really broad where the same thing can happen over a lot of different districts. Then one of the other goals is to have town and citizen involvement. I should have put cities and villages also in there. Biggest thing is we want to make sure everybody knows what's going on with what we're doing, and then it's very important that one town looks at their neighboring town to see what everybody's doing as part of that too. So on your borders, you are looking at, and at least you know what each municipality has an idea of what they want to do. working together as a region more than individual towns when you look at it. But you still have your individual town where you would be the enforcement. Comes into effect with cities and villages too, looking at that border, just making sure you don't have conflicting land uses a lot of times in those areas. And that's where I have workshops down there. Workshops, we're going to have workshops where the towns that want to adopt county zoning, they're going to be working on their maps, of course. But we also want to have workshops where it's open to town zone towns, cities, villages, if they wish. For one example, we've kicked around a little bit is that how to use your comprehensive plan and your zoning ordinances together and to come up with a very solid decision on like a board of adjustment decision or a rezone decision at the town levels there. We want to educate out there and come out and educate. So through this whole process, we have to balance out individual property rights and then the community's interests in the health, safety, their goals, how they see it. Sometimes that can be a big challenge because it says zoning also protects the property rights, property value, use of the property, and protects against conflicting infringements from neighboring uses that may adversely affect the enjoyment of personal property. So you have to take all that and balance it out with the individual property rights. What to allow people to do with permitted uses, so you don't have conflicting uses next door to each other, district-wise for uses, for setbacks, so you're not right on top. Out here, one thing might be ag, so you don't have a barn right sitting next to your neighbor's house. And there's a little bit of separation. Industrial stuff separated from a residential subdivision. There's things that you want to always kind of plan for, look for as part of that. So as the revision comes through as a timeline, we've started out, we're out here doing the kickoff meetings. We've had one task force meeting that we have met. We're in the process a little bit. We hope to have a draft going to the county board for approval about March of 2016. At the latest, they're March. So it would be coming into effect before the building season. So what happens then at that point, if it would be approved, there's a 1-year time period that all the towns that are underneath have adopted county zoning already would be under the old ordinance. Once they adopt the new code, they would be under that code. So that's what this 1 month later, town one ratifies, and they'd be under that new code. So now you go out to March 2017, and town number 2 doesn't wish to be under county zoning anymore. They wish to go to town zoning or no zoning. They would actually then be able to go after that 1-year period out there. It's the way the state statute is laid out as part of that. So if they would not take any action to re-adopt, they would be under that ordinance for the 1-year period. After that 1-year period, they would no longer be under county zoning. So how does a town actually get county zoning? It's actually fairly simple. First is that the town kind of decides that they wish to have zoning of some sort, county zoning. Would contact us. We would work to prepare your maps to go through, and that's what we'll be doing here too with the towns that are under county zoning and anybody that wishes to be in county zoning. We'll work with you getting those maps prepared and ready to go. And then the town has to just adopt the resolution. That we have a sample resolution put together, and then that all comes back to to us, and it goes to the county board for the final approval. So it's a fairly simple process. And what we actually talked with a couple towns last night, they're town zoned, and they're kind of teeter-tottering on, should we stay town zoned, should we think about county zoning? Right now, I hate to say it, we could give it a trial run. You could actually give it as, if you are town zoned here, because in this 1 year period, you could give county zoning a try, and you still have that option to come out at the end of that period, So now comes the audience participation part of our program. What we kind of want to do is we want to gather some information from you. And the first one that we want to look at is we want to go around the room and what do you see your community looking like in 10 to 15 years? We'll start, if you give us what's your vision, what you think the community, you want to see your community being, and then let us know what community you're from, because we're going to mark that next to it. So, why don't we start with Dennis?
Well, town of Spencer, I would say we're gonna keep getting more and more homes and more residential and less farming. There's only a handful of farms left right now, because we're right between Spencer and Marshfield. That would be my thought, what do you think?
Some more suburbanized.
Yeah, and more subdivision, probably. You haven't had many lately, but I think that's just because of the economy, but I think.
Yep.
And then, like the village, the village, they got this extra territorial thing. We're always threatened with being gobbled up, but we've already lost things to Marshfield. And Spencer, of course, got annexation. They don't like what we do. They'll annex and go to Marshfield.
Yeah.
So, more annexation. Let's see what will happen.
Extraterritorial, you said?
Well, how much authority do they actually have on that extra territory?
Essentially, you'll be working with the village or the city that adopts that boundary area. So, in effect, instead of working
So if
with
we
the
want to
county,
build, somebody comes to our town and wants to build a house in that, we have to go get the approval from the village.
it's a very similar situation, a very similar setup as though you were with the county.
What happens is there's usually a buffer area in those areas that you come up with a joint plan, kind of what's going to be in there, and what you want to do for the zoning basically in there. And there's usually a committee, by the time it's 3 would be from the village and 3 from the township. That would be on a separate committee that would basically
Basically just deal with that.
would do a lot of those, yeah. We're working with the village of Marathon City in that, we're working with 4 townships, which is a little harder than working with 1 municipality and 1 village.
Because we really don't have nothing to say about it. They can exercise that power.
You do, but you get to dance, if you will, with them.
Yep. John, the vision?
We've already experienced all that. And we can help you with that too. We have a joint plan commission with the city of Marshfield. And we've already done a comprehensive plan and agreement contract, so we'd be happy to share that with you. Give you some idea of what you have. And Dean is right, Jeff is right. You'd have a 3-person or 4-person, depending on, it's equal. And if you come to an impasse, actually nothing happens. So, it works out. I mean, once you keep the eye in the community and keep the conversation open, and talk to the community, see what they want. So, I mean, I see you know, I see some growth factors in McMillan. I mean, just the steady hand of the wheel, so to speak, and keep our comprehensive program in sight, in line. You know, it depends. Frankly, what's happening is it'll depend upon the economy. And, you know, Marshfield, essentially at this particular point, is going to be generated by the medical field, and has been for decades. But it's lost a lot of manufacturing, and it's probably going to do more medical research and probably looking at a lot more cyber companies coming in. So it's going to be high-tech stuff, medical and high-tech, and that's my view of the future anyway.
Stratford, Village of Stratford, our industrial park is growing pretty good. We've got 2 businesses coming in now. One is a nonprofit that's going up. There's another one that's in the process of being building, and we just sold a lot of acre land to another one that's going to be starting probably this summer. We've got a nice housing subdivision that's going in. I don't know how many houses are there. I think last year we put up 9 new houses, so just to continue those growth areas, I guess.
So continue some residential, that's single-family housing that
Yeah.
ain't going anymore? Okay, so increase the single-family homes and continue with filling the business.
Yeah, growing industrial park.
Industrial park.
I like to tell people from Marshall when we sit at meetings with their our board members, their, what do we call them? City council members. I like to tell them that someday they're gonna be a subsidiary of Stratford. Some of them Stratford, because our population is growing, theirs is shrinking.
And that's a possibility, honestly.
Long shot, but yeah.
Don't be surprised.
Common plan, we just adopted exclusive ag, I hope we keep it that way, but Maple Ridge Dairy will probably own us all like.
So you want to be in the exclusive, or keep it
That's high, too.
Yeah.
exclusive ag.
No problems with that.
We don't foresee any subdivisions at all in our township.
So you want to stay primarily
Farm.
agricultural
And so
and?
we just went
Okay.
through all of it.
Yep, oh, yeah, yeah.
Both of you.
Yep.
Bruce Wyman from Town of McMillan. I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question, because what you're asking is something I have little or no control over, which is an issue that's one of the reasons why I'm here tonight. The other thing that I think, and I'd like to ask a question before I give an answer. You said, you know, in 10 to 15 years, what should we want the place to look like? I'd like to have the town of McMillan look like everybody owned their own property and people stayed. I'd like to have people stay out of my head, out of my house, and off my lawn. So using that particular approach, I don't believe in kind of the socialist environment that you're pushing, which is because you said I should do it, I should do it. That said, if we had no zoning, for example, how would I deal with how would we deal with Marshall? Because I don't know what John has run into, but I've videotaped every board meeting for the last 2 years, so I've been at all the board meetings. How do you deal with it if you have no zoning?
If you have no zoning, you have no regulations to dictate and to determine your own direction as a town or as a community.
That's fine, no, I mean, but how do you put that, if Marshfield is out there, what can they say to me as a member of the town of McMillan with living on the border? How do I use my property?
I suspect, well, one, if you have zoning, don't have zoning, you have no regulations, okay?
So they have no effect on you.
What I suspect may or may not occur, this is all hypothetical, if you're close to Marshfield, they will probably annex slowly into your township. So you'll probably lose territory through those means.
Okay, so when you say annex in, they can just basically say, we take charge of however you're gonna run your property.
If they annex an area,
What's the
yes.
annex, I guess what I'm asking is the annexing process. Because I don't live next to Marshfield, so it doesn't make any difference to me, but I might want to annex into the town of Old Plain, for example, because I live right across the street from them. Now, they may or may not want me, but it sounds like I wouldn't be such a bad catch, because I really don't want to get into their head, their house, or on their lawn. So what, but there are other people in my township. That's why I'm asking that question. I'd like a straight answer about that. I don't need to have somebody kind of maneuvering around it. Explain to me, does that mean that the city of Marshfield has the ability to come on to take my property over whether I want them to or not?
If they have no authority outside of their municipal boundary unless they have an ETZ that's established and you have a committee to work through that.
Which one of those
Okay,
are?
let me make this more difficult in that case, because if you had a PID, you know what that is?
Sure.
What is it?
It's your industrial part.
No, it's a pelvic inflammatory disease, because I'm a doctor, so when you say
They have different names.
when you say an ETZ, what you're telling me is nothing. I don't want to hear, acronyms, and I'd like to hear just the real words. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
ETZ, extraterritorial zoning.
Right.
Okay, so that means that they can do with me as they please, is that what that means?
What they can do is a city or village, depending on the size of that community, they can go out a mile and a half or to 3 miles. And basically in there, there's a joint planning commission basically that would be created for that area, and that's what that plan would have a separate plan basically.
So the town of Cleveland, which has no zoning, they would be influenced whether or not they had a plan commission or not. Because that's the question I'm asking. I'm not asking as the town of McMillan, I'm asking what if the decision was to be made? Because at some point, if I understood this correctly, you're saying that everybody's going to have zoning, there would be no zoning. And then in some way, we decide whether or not we want to be zoned, don't want to be zoned, how we want to be zoned, et cetera. Am I clear? Is that a clear understanding? Okay. So if there's no zoning, how does a town or a village or the neighboring town determine what I can do with my property in the town of McMillan, for example?
They can't.
That's a pretty simple answer then.
Other than communicating, which I always recommend. I mean, you have to, I look at it this way. You have your town, let's say it's Cleveland, and you don't want zoning, but you may have an adjacent town that may have zoning, and they may, let's say, establish an industrial district right across the street from your town. That's going
my property.
that will impact you, whether it's traffic. There's some type of impact. Okay, so I always recommend that you always communicate with an adjacent town. Okay, they don't have authority to control what happens in your town, but it's always a good practice to communicate.
But they still don't have authority.
No, sir.
They're not on my lawn.
No, sir.
That was a simple answer to the question. My view, there's one other question I had, because you mentioned something about mapping. If the county comes in, how do they determine what my township should look like?
We don't. You would.
Well, I'm not certain of that, because at the moment, there's village powers, and it would depend on how exactly the zoning issue was faced. When that question comes up, I would just as soon have it be put up as a referendum. As a matter of fact, from the standpoint of every property owner, it would make good sense if it was put up as a referendum. Because if it's not a referendum, then it becomes the desire of the 3 to 5 people, or however many are on the township board, as to what they want. And they're not paying my taxes. If they're paying my taxes, that's not a problem. But I trust they probably aren't.
The way the statutes are set up, a referendum is not required for a town to adopt
Who makes that
town
decision?
zoning or town zoning or to adopt county zoning. All it takes is the town board to have a resolution, or to file a resolution to adopt. You can host a referendum. It's going to be advisory referendum for the town board to do either or, and still it's advisory. The town board could go complete opposite, or I don't know which way it is there. But again, it is advisory.
It's citizen driven,
Yeah.
It's citizen-driven?
yes.
In what way?
If you are trying to establish an initiative petition, or if you're trying to have a resolution to see how
Whether or not we have
how
zoning.
it turns out.
Every landowner in any township or any village or any city, any landowner owns their property. You know why I know that? Is because my tax bill comes.
Mhm.
And I pay more in taxes than I paid for the property, quite honestly, already. And it will get more over time. So I have an ongoing investment, for which the rest of those people really don't. Not in my property. So I'd like to know, if we're gonna make a decision on how I'm gonna run my property, who made the decision that it's left up to the township, to the village board? Or, because you said it's set up that way, but what you left out was who set it up and who made that law?
Legislation. It's
Who?
state statute.
Who?
State
State.
statute.
So this is a state issue. We have to
State
go to
statute.
Mr. Culp or whoever it is who represents us to get this changed, if that's the case.
To allow it, yes. Answer your question, yes. Your representative would have to have a law, the change of the law. The state statute has the process set up that the town board would come in and do the resolution.
I mean, the other possibility is we could vote out village powers, but I doubt that that's gonna happen.
Again, I guess the easiest, you want quick answers, right?
No, these are, I mean,
But
if
that
other than that, then it
process-
becomes just a discussion, we're not really getting any
Yeah.
information whatsoever.
That process is citizen driven. Okay.
I guess you'd have to explain that better to me, because if I have to defer to the town board, then it's not citizen-driven at all.
No, we're a representative government, so whoever is in your town, you voted to put in a representative, an elected official to represent you as a community. We're a republic. Now, if you're not satisfied with what your elected officials are doing, you as a citizen group can initiate the process to enact or try to enact an action. That's why I say it's citizen-driven. It's a citizen-based driven action.
And that's where, we're not, the workshops and everything that'll be held, that's where the town should be going back to the public. There's gonna be public meetings, all this, where they're looking at the county doesn't know, and sometimes the town doesn't know whatever is going on in every property in the town. That's where the residents need to look at it too, and make sure that the class that they're in, for the district, that they would be asked to be placed in, represents what they're doing on the property, and that they will be allowed, so you don't put example.
A residential and an industrial.
Yeah, in the middle of industrial park. So whatever they're doing there, they're allowed to do as part of there. So it takes citizens to actually look at the maps as part of this. It's not dropping a map in front of the town board. And the county's not looking at it and going, okay, we think over here we'll paint this color over here. Here, town board, adopt this. The town has to look at it.
The town develops it.
Yes.
But that's not what you said just about 15 minutes ago. What you said was that the county will come in with them and prepare a map. I trust that doesn't mean I prepared the map, or John didn't prepare the map, you prepared the map. How did you come up with that map?
Well, we'll start with, in this process, we're gonna start with what's there already. If it's residential, you know, we're gonna have a map with all the parcels on it. Here's the existing zoning. What you have to do is, the town has to and look at what they want it to go into in the new categories. Because some of the same categories won't be, you won't be able just to pick it up, set it down, like some people with the farm, between the exclusive ag and the farm preservation, that was just changed. That was more of a simple one, where they are both very strong ag districts, where most of them just picked up whatever was in the farm or exclusive agricultural districts and moved it to the farmland preservation district. There may be some people that will change from a general ag, what is now, into some sort of residential, and that, yet we have to look at, the town has to look at all of the properties. It's not, we're not just creating a map. We're gonna create a map to start with, but that's gonna get changed, and then it'll come back to the town, and it might get changed again.
When you say it comes back to the town, who are you talking about?
More
Somebody
likely,
gonna come to me and say, this is what we're gonna do with your property?
we will be working with the town planning commissions, the town boards, and there'll be meetings that'll be held.
Go to the public.
And you can go out, and we'll be out in the public at multiple workshops with this. You know, they'll be working together, and what we hope to do is have several towns working at the same time in one meeting room. Kind of like someplace here where your neighboring towns are there, so if you did want to see what your neighboring town was looking at, you could, okay, and step over if you wish.
You guys are really making this complicated. The last time we went through this, the town, we had a committee, and we looked at the map, and we had kind of like the last say of it, and this is what it was, and gave it to you, and
You will. You will have.
I mean, you're making it complicated to him. I mean,
Well,
he can advise the town board of what he, you know,
Yes,
that's what
yes.
you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what he's asking.
Let me.
But I have no guarantee that anybody's gonna listen to me. Quite honestly, my experience over the last 10 to 12 years is there are very few people that listen.
Well,
The process is, let me see if I can simplify it. We will have a working map, and if you're county zoned or town zoned, or if you're no zoned, you have no districts established, okay? If you have county zoning, and just go from there. You will already have established districts on an existing map that you should be, your town should be using each time it makes a decision anyway, okay? That will be the base map that we will bring to the town. The town will make the changes. The town tells us exactly what they want. We don't tell the town what they want. And it's up for the town to coordinate and collaborate with their residents to make sure that that map is being developed reflects the desires of their citizens. Okay? Once they could get to that point where everyone's in agreement and they come to a consensus, that map will then, because we have to, by state law, we have to take that map and make sure that it's approved with the zoning document, because that then becomes your official zoning map. And at times, you can modify or change that code or document over time.
You can do it anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
So that's how it happens. And I'm more than happy to, if that wasn't, I can help it. Did that help you?
Where do I get input on what you do with my property?
Your
You
town board should have
provide the
meetings.
input to and you participate with your elected officials.
No, that's what you would like to say that happens, but is somebody gonna come to my door, somebody gonna send me a letter, somebody gonna say, we would like to do this, but what do you think about that with your property?
Yeah, your elected officials should be doing that.
Plus,
Okay.
you're here
That's
tonight,
fine.
and we're gathering
No, I'm
information.
asking
to take
questions,
back.
I'm just asking
No, no,
questions,
yeah,
that's fine.
you're elected.
I'll be
officials,
back.
Should be doing that.
Thank you.
What
Rick?
with my town? We have a quite a divided town between the agricultural and the subdivisions. We got some industrial, like John had said. We're gonna get more subdivisions, we're gonna get more growth coming out of the Marshfield area. But it seems like the vision for that the planning commissioner, the town has right now is stuff on one side of the river, they wanna keep agricultural, and the other stuff that's growing out of Marshfield will be, you know, some industrial, some big box store, more residential out there. And like I mentioned last night, one of the issues in our area with the zoning is the farmers that want to get out of farming, this, you know, 60 acres, 40 acres, 100 acre parcels, these people's retirements. And especially where we live, unlike north, you know, where you guys are, that land is can be very, very valuable. You know, you sell, you know, to a 100 lot subdivision versus the only game in town is the big box farmer down the road, which doesn't want to pay anything for it. You know, he just wants the land because he can't get any more land. So sometimes the zoning conflict is this. It's zoned exclusive ag, and it has to go through the process of the planning commission or whatever, and now in one land conservation is zoning, they hold that very, you know, whatever the planning commission says very high up when it comes up to the county level. So old Bill across the road needs his money for retirement, and he can get $1,500 an acre, or he can get $7,000 an acre. That's the problem I have with the zoning issue, you know, with the zoning and stuff like that.
What township are you in?
Harvey?
What township are you in?
McMillan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But the farmers are paying prime dollar.
They are now, but they don't, but it's not always, but they're not paying what the realtors pay.
But you gotta realize the subdivision, you gotta invest money to do that. You can't just say, you know, you gotta put,
Absolutely right, and that's where
You gotta make
the
it
comprehensive plan comes into place, is because if it's set up properly, the town doesn't have to spend any money on those roads. If they wanna put if they do it to maintain them after they're adopted, but they don't have to build that road.
no, that's right.
They don't have to build a thing. They don't have to spend a dime on infrastructure. Not one penny. All they have to do is maintain it once it's adopted.
That's the same thing in our village. If you put in a subdivision, you put in the roads, the curb, you got it.
The developer?
Yes.
Yeah, as they should.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at. If you're selling for 7,000 acres, by the time you, the person that are selling it, you gotta put in the road. You better off selling it to a farmer.
Depends on the situation, yes.
But I mean,
But I'm just saying, you know, that happens, and then zoning gets in the way. You know, your dad's selling his farm for this much money or this much money.
just keep it at the river. Don't bring it north any further.
Are you guys annexing from the Niagara Play?
Our next one, our next thing that we want to talk about a little bit is, we want to see what is the town's perspective of the conservation planning and zoning's customer service and technical assistance to the town themselves and to town residents. What you may have heard or what you've experienced firsthand, if you had to come in for a permit or do anything like that. Working on, we'll start on this side, we'll start with Rick.
Boom, boom, back to back.
Hammer me right
Yeah,
there.
keep you on the toes.
Okay, I'm gonna give you two stories. The last time I had to do something, it was very pleasant. 5, 6 years ago, it was a nightmare. the first conversation I got was, here's your letter, by the way, we're shutting down your business. Thank you very much, county administrator, what do you do now?
Yes, it was for me.
Huh?
It was for me.
And that was the first thing we got. It took 6, 7 months, several meetings back and forth up there because the paperwork wasn't filled out, this wasn't done, somebody didn't do their job. I kept showing up, and finally it got handled. And that's why I got involved in this stuff. And it wasn't nice, it wasn't pleasant. And now I have a section of my property that's zoned light industrial or something like that in the middle of a field, more or less. And I think so that's the type of thing we don't want to see. Today, I see the stuff come through, I see you guys answering the phones, they getting back to the people within 24 hours. There's checklists to make sure that all the documents are in order before they get to the land conservation and zoning or the other committees. It's totally different today than it was before.
So I have to ask this question. Do you now have a new appreciation for the process? Being where you are now with the involved with the LCC? No?
Yeah, I actually do, because the people we have involved up in the county today are under a different administration, are under different rules, and it's not personal. Back when I went through this, it was 100% personal. It was driven by some people in the township, and it was just an expensive bunch of baloney. Today, I think once it gets to the county level, that it takes the personal side out of it, and it's real good. We had that issue come up last month or the month before, where we came to one of our meetings, and there was, this person saying this person saying that, and ended up at the zoning thing, and that all went away. These are the rules, these are the guidelines, and this is what we have to follow. And it wasn't like that years ago. So it's getting better.
Dr. Levin?
There's very little I can say that is not going to be adversarial here, but I want to back up what he said. And I have no guarantee that in 1 year or 5 years that it's not going to go back to exactly what it was when Mr. Bergner was here. And that's the part that scares the hell out of me. So that when you say, trust me, I'm going to say, trust me. Get out of my head, get out of my house, get off my lawn. And until you can show that, I have a hard time having faith in any of it. It seems just like so much smoke and mirrors to me. Because that's what it was. And I was put in a horrible position, and it cost me a lot of money. And it was a vendetta of sorts. And I know one thing about Homo sapiens, you know who that is? Homo sapiens is not nice. Homo sapiens is an opportunist, and that includes me. So why I should believe in something that goes further up? I'd rather keep it close to home. I'd rather be annexed by the town of Eau Plaine, because I have a feeling they'll stay out of my house and off my lawn. That's why I asked the question. So if you can do something to help give guarantee of that, because you're still here, Mr. Johnson. And part of what he experienced, as I see it, as I hear it, you were involved in that too. It's just the person that was above you, perhaps, was more involved. I don't know. But that's the problem. I don't know. And how do you find out where this is all coming from? And each and every person in this room is going to be affected by that.
We appreciate that.
Yes. Just trying to think how.
And all I can say is, from our side, we'll try to do as best as we possibly can.
I would like to capture that as, possibly would like to,
So you have
Trust.
trust issue?
the trust, yeah. Is that?
I trust it cost me $40,000 about 10 years ago.
Well, your, perspective of CPZ's customer service or technical assistance that has been given to the town.
We've never really,
No,
we've never really experienced,
not my part is spend, yeah.
we don't have a lot, and it's because we're on exclusive aid.
Not much because of exclusive aid. Well, we're trying to capture all the comments and all.
And the
No,
county,
explain where this is
just
going.
gonna ask the county, how would you get the exclusive aid again?
You guys did, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, you had a good experience doing that then?
Village of Stratford?
Haven't had any problems or dealings with it, really. Pretty much do our own thing. They don't bother us, we don't bother them.
Village is a little different, they,
It's a different ballgame.
you have a little bit, yeah, you have some different regs and
We have a
that fall under, so.
2-foot square mile boundary, but there is some agriculture, you're not very active. Everything is zoned, we got a map like you do with the different colors, everything is zoned. And we've had, in fact, my own land, I had to change the zoning on, when I bought it, it was residential, I got 70 acres, and it's farmland, so I had to rezone, it, no problem, worked out good. So.
John?
We've gone through all that. You haven't got enough time. Bruce and Rick have gone through some terrible things, and it was, again, a personal vendetta on the side of one employee in McMillan and another employee in the county, And I think that the key is, and the task force is going to have to work with this, it's going to be a matter of trust. Okay? McMillan, just because of all of this annexation, the city came through, that's why they have a joint planning commission now in the extraterritorial zoning program. Because, we lost, all of the Walmart, H Ford, all of that land, considerable amount of taxes were taken away. Now, by having this agreement, we get paid back for any annexation for a period of 5 years, I believe, the taxes. But the key is going to be is this new comprehensive program. Once it's written and the code is simplified and makes it user-friendly, is there a guarantee that the county won't bring down the ungodly power of the county back onto the townships? And it's a viable concern. It really is. Only because there's history.
Right.
That's the key, and that's, we've experienced it, right?
I'm new to the area.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'll give you my experience with the county so far. Okay? And I've worked in some pretty controversial areas. I would say that the culture at the county at this point is in a very positive side. It's moving to always improve itself. It's progressive and it's forward-thinking, and they are doing things continually to document how to improve their actions, dashboard reporting, if you will, see where and how they can improve things, where are they lacking. They're looking at staff skills, improving the staff training if it's required, and that's across all departments in the county.
Yeah.
So, I think at least right now, with this window shot, the county is really, in mean,
Well,
I've been
we've
across
seen
in
those
different
changes.
areas.
I didn't want to imply that it was a present staff situation, because some of the staff members that were there during this period of time where they drew these lines with personal vendettas. Because most of it could have easily been worked out with conversation if one side would have listened to the individuals whose land was being affected, that wouldn't have been a problem. But, you know, when that particular person who's retired planted his feet, and that was it. And then he had some liaison people, some individuals who went along with that mindset, you know, in different positions in the county and in the township. He had some issues, okay? And all we're saying is that, you know, we have to really look at that, because that still is a basic cancer, you know, that's still within our township, okay? You know, and that, you know.
Yeah, and when you lose trust, and I hear what both of you are saying, when you lose the integrity and the trust, it's difficult to gain it back, right? Now, it doesn't matter, it's the same whether you're at the federal level, the state level, county level, city, village, town. If you lose that integrity, it's very difficult to get it back. So you have to earn it back. So I can't give a good response in terms of what happened.
And believe me, I didn't expect it, because you're asking for the vision and you're asking for the follow-up. There was a rush to judgment in 1972, because all of these townships that came into county zoning in 72 were actually almost sold on the idea by their county board representatives, who were also officials in the township, many of these at the same time. So when the county board came across with county zoning and said we can put together county zoning, if you look at the timeline and dates in 1972, they're all within a 30 to 60 day period. They all came in at the same time. So it was essentially a rush to judgment. And people didn't have really the background and study the issues when they came in. Okay? But many of them were facing the same pressures that are here today, but now these pressures are being taken care of through codes and legislation and so on. Before it was, I mean, a good example is some areas in Wood County that are not zoned, yet homes of $500,000, $300,000 or $750,000 denomination are being built, and then right next door to them, someone is moving in a single wide double home, 5 horses and a lean-to. Okay? You know, somebody is in their front yard and somebody is knocking on the door. So, you know, without zoning, there's an issue, anytime. So whether it be county, state, or, you know, individual. But, you know, that's what we're gonna have to face. And I'm sure we're gonna hear this from other people too.
I agree.
That much work on, been pretty smooth though. And then we go, everybody's supposed to pay out of the new one.
I don't think we have any issues in our town, but as far as zoning, I've only been a chairman now, this is my second year, but I remember my dad was the one in 72, he was chairman back then. That's when our township started zoning, and I just remember him saying, I didn't know anything about what it was, but he always said, zoning has saved us at times. And there's good and bad on zoning, I'll be honest. I mean, sometimes it does reach out and touch your land and say, hey, you can't do this or something. But I also served on the Board of Adjustment, and that's when people come in and, and they have, they have a dispute of what their neighbor is doing. And I'll never forget that one. I think it was the town of Texas, I believe, maybe not, but they had no zoning. And that room was packed with people because they had no zoning, and someone wanted to start a gentleman's club right out in the middle of nowhere next to all of these people. Well, they didn't want this, of course, but they didn't really have a foot to stand on because they had no zoning, So when you say you own your land and you don't want anybody to touch it, that's true. But also, you kind of want some protection that next to your land, you aren't going to have something that you don't want either. And I mean, that's why I do see zoning being good, but yet there are cases where it's bad. And one example was a lady who wanted a few chickens in our township. And all of a sudden she was told, you can't have chickens because that's not in the zoning. Someone had called and complained, and we had to tell her to move her chickens. Even though we thought that was not good. I didn't think that was right. But, so I'm saying there's good and bad in it, but not having any zoning, I don't know, that would concern me. I really would. Because there's
that
the
balance.
weighing, there's that balance.
So we're trying to slide up there, the balance between the property rights and the health and safety and community vision. There's that balance that has to come to.
Another one example would be with the extraterritorial. I know like the village has kind of said, okay, let's say the person who owns 40 acres right next to the village, they want to do a subdivision. Well, the village is going to come in and say, okay, you can do that, but let's make the roads line up so we don't have big loops, twists, because if it would be annexed, then you can run your power, you can get, and some people might say, well, that's wrong, but some people might say, on the other hand, well, that's not a bad idea, everybody's just different, so. But as far as myself, whenever I talk to the county, I've had no problems, everybody answers the questions.
I just want to add one more thing on, this whole revision thing here, as far as, we all have our stories, whether we, like it or we don't like it. The one thing that I see that can bring the most trust for the county and the people being involved with it is if we can get it passed through that, you're not in for life anymore. You have a way to get out.
Right.
That's
I would agree.
To me, that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to be on that task force, was to try to show to the other towns out there that, this is a big brother stepping in and saying, okay, we got you now, we're not gonna let you go for the next 40 years, just since 1972. You have an opportunity to get out. And that alone shows that there has to be a working relationship, a better working relationship with the county and the townships. And you know what, we're willing to put some skin in the game. If you don't believe in it, if we don't prove it, then you can get out. So.
And that's a good statement. We have to, I can't imagine the township not having the opportunity to get out, again, from a different state, right? But, we have to believe in ourselves, and in order to get that credibility back, we have to perform. So if we don't perform, when we update, as this proposed and hasn't been approved at this point, but the intention is to update the zoning code after comprehensive plans develop, so that we stay current with your desires as towns. And so that the zoning code may have to be updated as well to reflect the changes in the comp plans being developed. So if you want to stay ag, you will stay ag. If you're having pressure from big box units and major subdivisions and high density development and industrial and business, that growth is going to occur. You better plan for it, in terms of the town. You're developing in a logical pattern, right? That effort has to track over a period of time. So it's a 10-year period. If you don't like it, if we've done it, if somebody's gotten personal with an issue, you have an opportunity to get out as a town. And that's important. It's performance driven, if you will.
I don't know where this comes up, but what about a township in the situation with the village of Rockville? Is that something we can talk about here? I mean, that could happen, that's a bad deal there. If I was in town of Maine or town of Texas, my house would be up for sale, I'd be gone.
Yeah, there are some, again, statutes that still by, if they would go under and they fold. It's divided back to when it was the original line, which was a problem because they had to go back and try to figure out where that original line was. Through there, and then it would be assessed back and forth. The debt would be there. And that would be something that the county would be working with those towns if that would ever happen. Say an Edgar or an Athens or Stratford or anyone would end up folding up, you know.
Yeah, as a county, we've tried to take a neutral position. In fact, I've attended those meetings too. And there are ground rules, it's the be kind, trust, and all these things, to be honest. We set ground rules where we're trying to move the situation forward. So the county has taken a leadership role as much as we can to assist in that process.
We're gonna help, involve as much as we can. There's certain things that we can't do. The town has to do it, or the village has to do it that way, but we are there as a educational tool.
And support.
And being on education and economic development, I was at all those meetings too, and was there when they, after they had the review of that law firm or whatever that came in and did the study and things. The county's going to have a very, very limited role in that because, if they did get involved somehow, it would be a huge thing because there's no way that Stratford or Athens or Spencer or whatever should have to pay for mistakes that happen over there. It's very unfortunate that's going to be consolidated into those two townships. But there's also a TIF district involved, which if it goes back to the town, and a town can't have a TIF district, so that township is going to end up having to pay that money back for a TIF district also.
And
So it's a very complicated, very, very complicated thing, but, and that's where the education from the county comes in on, if somebody wants to put a TIF district in, or, the village of Stratford over there does a real good job with theirs, and stuff like that, but it doesn't become someone else's problem. And all those things in the basket, but the rest of the county should never have to pay 4 or 5 people's bad decisions.
And we haven't seen, Brokaw has been the one now, but you just don't see this every day, and that's where we're going through. And even with the ETZ with Marathon City and that, the county was working with all the towns and Marathon City, the village of Marathon City, to make sure that we were stands and what everything is. And county board actually set up meetings and had everybody come in. And Kurt Gibbs was heading those up as part of that too, so education.
And we held a neutral, supportive position to all municipalities.
So the next one is administrative practices and hurdles. This is kind of looking at staff more, when you're looking for answers to questions, or a permitting process that way, or determinations. The first one I heard several times when we went around was, I think capturing as lack of trust in the staff a little bit. Was a little bit on there.
I think it was in the department more than the staff.
Okay.
We're talking about history now, we're not talking about current events.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we want to see where we're at. We want positive practices that you may have seen and some of them that you haven't seen, because we want to make sure we capture some of these. And I'll put, how are we putting it down? And they're still concerned about history. I'm still concerned about history, and trust there, so I heard that coming out. Are there any other, with the administration, not directly, you had to go get this permit because of this, but administrative, when somebody has talked or anything like that, challenges or good practices that you've come in with staff? Anybody, feel free.
You're turning around the permit applications faster than you had before. And that, you know, and sometimes it's a lack of staff, and also it's the fact that if you get 20 permits in one day, you obviously can't process all of those in that 24-hour period. You know. And we've seen that. So actually, frankly, Jeff, we've seen a drastic improvement in the last 2 years, let's say.
For permitting issuance.
So whatever your goals are, you're moving towards achieving.
That's why I kind of broke out permitting in this. Have you heard of any challenges just with basic permitting? Zoning wise, rezone, process that way. Has there any been part of that? I know Rick mentioned a process that he had to go through as part of that. And I think, hopefully I capture some of this, it was drawn out and it was unorganized maybe?
It was, unorganized is a nice way to put it. It was, it was drawn out, it was unorganized. From other people that have been calling me lately, and I know that this staff has not, we can't control that, is the timely fashion between the DNR and Corps of Engineers. And I'd like to see that keep getting put up there so that when we go to other staff meetings, we can say to the DNR and the Corps, and the Corps of Engineers that, if you need to put in a manure pit out in your area, you don't want to wait 3 months for them guys to show up and say, oh yeah, that looks cool. You want them there now,
Yeah.
or as soon as possible.
That has come up at several of our meetings,
Yeah.
but it is a good thing that we're capturing everything on this too, so. Any other permitting challenges or anything that you've seen? Not to pick on you, John, but I know you issue a lot of permits for McMillan because you're one of our deputy zoning administrators. Do you see any challenges with any of those?
No, I just think that, we've got the checklist now, and just a turnaround once we get the app to you, we're doing. One of the things that's happened, what I think is positive, is that the DSAs have to go to the site, and they have to look at the site. So, prior to this, you had a lot of people coming in and saying, here's what I want to do, here's my map, and then actually doing something different. So then when the final, when you come out county-wise for the inspection, it's different than the application. Yeah, it is because, the applicant was not honest with the DSA. The DSA transferred it on to you and, made a difference. But I think now it's different, not a problem. Plus the fact, a lot of cooperation with staff where if they catch something, they'll say, all right, we need either you look at it or what do you know about this? Or, yeah. So that process has really been better than before. And plus the fact that we have to go out and look. And that makes me feel good. I think it makes the applicant feel good too. Because somebody's out there and they're actually walking it and looking at it, not on flipping a coin.
It should be a common practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, they built a big shed in the town of Plain, I think it was in Gillen, and I had a real problem with inspection, he was giving all kinds of trouble. That was John. It was really good, it came out, like he said, it was nice, he came out, looked it over, took a lot of money and left.
Yeah, well, you have to identify a contract.
Dennis, have you heard any or anything?
No, I thought the deputy zoning administrator is supposed to go and visit every site.
There,
when
she
she's
can,
required to.
the best, if she doesn't or he or she doesn't understand the site, they should be going to the site and working with them. Also depends on what information the resident or, the applicant is coming to with her. If they come with a full-blown certified survey map with a surveyor's points on it where this thing is going, and she drives by it on her way to work, and she sees flags sticking up in the middle of a 40, you're pretty confident on that. What we say is if you're going to go and want to build a building, right now, some of our accessory buildings can go as close to 7 feet to a property line. If you're planning on that, she's probably going to want to drive by, look at it, see what's going on there. We do that a lot of times when we're on inspection prior to, if we think it may be a concern, when we review it quick, we'll call up that applicant even and say, is this what you're proposing? All right, can we meet on site? Check it out just to make sure, because we would rather have you bump your form over now before you pour the concrete than now you pour the concrete and now try to get a variance, which may not be allowed, or you wouldn't get it, and you're gonna spend $400 and some in that to stop that, to correct the problem and not make one, basically.
Yeah, and sometimes, you get the applicant to feel better too, but, like, for instance, they'll say, help me find a property line. Well, if you can't find lines, okay, then basically you say, you're gonna have to get a survey out there to make sure that you're happy with it, the town and the county's happy with it, that this is actually the line, because what you don't want is that confrontation with your neighbor.
Right. Right. Or if you're unclear and you actually build your building and you travel across the line,
Yeah.
now you're in a civil action with your neighbor.
My only concern about permits is down the road is, I think you see more and more, a lot of residential people, maybe after they're living there a while, they might want to start a small business out of the home, just as a part-time, and I just find that to be very difficult. How can you say to one, okay, that's all right, and another one, no, or, what's the answer to
Because
them?
you should have standards.
Well, true, but I know, but it's
Yes.
difficult, I think that's very difficult, how do you?
It is, and that's where, when I mentioned a few things, home occupations, businesses, some of that would be one of these conditional use things where you wouldn't have to rezone a property in a lot of cases, you'd be able to do that as one of these, and then John Doe decides not to have the barber shop there anymore, as an example, it would go away after the time period, and then
We're really, and the task force hasn't really had the chance yet, because we're very early in this process, but we're going to try to address those issues where we have some flexibility built into this. You're so rural, reality is, you're very rural, so you'll probably have, and you're experiencing that quite often, like Rick. So how do we address those issues? Because if you do a variance, or if you do rezoning, if you do a variance, it runs with the land, if you run a conditional use, it runs with the owner. So you accommodate what the property owner desires, and we're trying to, and it's to be determined yet, so it's not there. We're trying to address that issue.
better. Town of Plain because you're one of, they're so heavily ag, have you heard any permitting issues or anything like that that use?
I haven't heard any.
Okay.
No complaints.
I just ask because you're,
Yeah.
out of everybody here, you're more strongly exclusive ag. A little different than Spencer, they have some general ag there, and then McMillan does have exclusive ag, but they're split by the river basically with it. So.
And just to add a little side note to this too, because you're very active, and we have a developing town, McMillan, we have to try to find a balance to meet the needs for a developing town plus a town that wants to stay rural. And it is your desire as a town to shape that future.
Our last question that we kind of want to bring here is, what other information would you like to have provided to you on zoning and land use? We want to capture some of this. Is there any specific topics, specifically possibly for a workshop that you guys want to see, want more information on a certain subject that we can get back to you on that way? Any?
Maybe just, at your workshops, have give the people the information so they can go online, and get into the county program so they can see what their zoning is, because a lot of questions are, what am I zoned?
Okay.
I mean, it takes, usually the clerk or anybody else representing the town, whatever, they have to do the same thing that the person can do online.
Okay. Information, we're gonna getting stuff all online. Okay.
Can you just add to that, somebody to contact to ask questions about it, because this sure has got to meet with the green apples. You put it online, something, and I'll either take it, because I can't speak for anybody else, I'll take it literally for what it says, and that may be wrong.
Okay.
So it'd be useful to have somebody to contact.
Contact information. Okay.
In terms of workshops, would you like exercises in terms of how to do mock reviews or mock projects going through Board of Adjustment or Planning Commission?
I wonder if it's a little early,
Oh, down the road.
Yes,
Just be down the road.
I mean, the task force has just started in, I think down the road we could probably ask that question again.
This question is going to be coming up in all the workshops.
Right.
This is going to be a real thing.
I mean,
We want to see where we're going.
if the task force can do what it hopes to do, and that is to write a comprehensive zoning code that's easily readable, user-friendly, and can get questions answered by either doing the online or having a contact person that can answer it. I think that's the important thing. And maybe then the workshops will be, because, the people are, when people come in, they're very apprehensive about zoning. I mean, they don't understand a lot of it, or any of it. And it's tough, because, how's that going to affect my property? Am I going to have all kinds of problems? Can I be what I want to be? Especially we're all rural, so, we're not in the asphalt jungle, so to speak, of the big city. We're out here for a reason.
I agree.
Why did we do this exercise? Again, we talked about the citizen task force, it was brought up a couple times. There's 12, it's a 12-member task force. They're town zone, county zone, no zone townships. They've come from everywhere from Red Mountain and McMillan, which are more urban, to where we're up in town of Event, town of Marathon, that are more ag. related, so we have a wide variety of people. The tasks that have been placed in front of these people have been to look and review, make suggestions, comments, and then recommend the draft to the LCZ committee. And what we have today is while they're going through these processes, all this information that we collected tonight and the other 5 meetings that we're going to is all will be going to them, so they'll have that in mind while they're coming up with the districts and what should be allowed in the districts, what could be a conditional use, while looking at the visions of everybody that we come up with, what problems or hurdles might have been there. So that we're trying to address all that as part of this code, so they have that in their mind when they're looking at it. So they have a very hefty task set in front of them. They've met once already. They are looking at meeting once every month for at least a year, if not 18 months.
Dean, just add to that too, we will be coming back out to the towns as a check back, so you'll be completely aware of what we're doing, how it's being developed, and we'll run through the process too.
Yeah.
So you'll be informed all the way through.
So you kind of started, everybody that came here tonight, you're learning knowledge and seeing what's going on. Investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Quote I found here, how can you keep up with the knowledge of what's happening, what we're doing, where we're at? So how to keep updated? Well, the first one, we've created a website off of Marathon Counties for the comprehensive revision. So when you're in the conservation, planning, and zoning section here, we have one here. This is where all the meeting notes, or minutes of the task force will be linked onto this. Videos of the meetings, or workshops and meetings since tonight. We'll have informational stuff out there, draft copies of the ordinance, all that will be part of this one. So this is one thing we're to check periodically, will be updated. We've started a quarterly newsletter that it's usually timed out at the same time the Eastern and Western Towns Association meetings come out. Rebecca Frisch, the director of the CPZ department, will take this, hand it out there, and then it gets mailed out about a week afterwards to all of the municipality board members. We ask if you wish to receive this, you can actually send any of our staff an email just requesting that you want to be on the email list, and we can shoot you this out at that time. They are also posted out on the website. About a week ago, Conservation Planning and Zoning launched a Facebook page. What this is, we see is trying to keep people updated. If you're on Facebook or looking at starting to get on Facebook, you can come out, like our page, and then you can actually get notifications of when something comes on our page. We're looking at this. This is actually a full department. It's not just the zoning. So there will be stuff on bike paths, the MPO. There will be a zoning. We're looking at having like the LCZ meeting agendas, links to go in there when it's all posted out there for people to be able to see when the meetings are. Actually, this meeting was posted on there for people that are part of it. It's a quick reference tool to know when things are happening with us. Then, workshops. We've said it a few times. The first one, of course, we're going to have workshops just with the towns that wish to adopt and work on their maps. So we'll be working on those with the towns to get them prepared. But then there's also relationships between zoning and the comprehensive plan, education of town boards on decision making for rezones and permitting. to make sure that everybody is making a solid decision, and having backing to those decisions, when either there would be a town zone or county zone township. So if you would be challenged at any point, you would make sure that you had some backing on what your decision was there. So we're looking at those. One of the sheets up there on the back side, this is on there, all of our contact information. Any of us, you can, like I said, if you want the newsletter or any information or questions, feel free, shoot us an email, a phone call, letter, anything, to our office. We will respond to you. Best thing I know is if you do leave me a message, try to be kind of specific what you're looking for. I'll try to find it before I call you, and I can give you an answer on there. We are busy with it, with a lot of meetings and all that, but we will get back to you, and we've tried to make it a goal less than 24 hours if we're not in the office that day. So. Are there any other questions? What we're looking at here again is we're looking at updating our code. We want to make sure that everybody is aware. We want to get that out, what we're doing. We're not doing this behind closed doors, anything like that. We want to work with all the towns that have county zoning, that don't have county zoning, or no zoning, so everybody knows where everybody's at, what they're looking at. If there's any questions from any of the communities, including cities and villages, that way they can contact us. We invite everybody to come to the workshops. That will be on there. Everybody, they'll be in the newsletters, they'll be all that stuff. Any questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because we're supposed to be doing that, or redoing our comprehensive plan, does it really pay to do the comprehensive plan when we're going to be changing all this? I mean, shouldn't we kind of wait until this is a little bit more into effect, so we know what's going on? Because like you said, if we're going to be redoing our maps, if we went off the maps we have now and then we change them soon,
Well, it is a timing issue,
yeah.
and we are in the process of doing both county level comprehensive plan as well as the zoning. At this particular point in time, again, the state dictates by statute that everyone has to revisit their comprehensive plan on a 10-year basis. So you have a year to work on that. In addition to that, in many areas, most of the county is primarily going to stay rural, large lot. Not much is really going to change, with the exception of McMillan, Red Mountain, some towns, and they've pretty much stayed on top of any issue that they've been
Yeah,
facing.
you can do your comprehensive revision to get within, the framework of the state code law. And then you can revisit it a year or two later also. I mean, there's no, it doesn't say, it says you have to do it within a 10-year period, but you can do it every year.
Right.
If you wanted to. I mean, if you were going that fast, or, like let's say you have some issues with the village, or you guys have that southern fringe where you got Marshville moving in and things like this. Yeah, you can do this on a yearly
Right.
basis. Yeah.
And I would recommend that. It's a very good point. And it's an easy process too. I think a lot of towns, it's my impression that they're kind of hands off from it because they really don't want to dive into it. It's really not that complicated.
And that's where the revision policy that we're working on is hopefully, what we want to do is get it on the track where that's where the number of 10 has been thrown out. So you would work on your comprehensive plan, and when that's done, then you would look at the zoning comprehensive revision. Then 10 years down the road.
Then we're on track.
Yep, So that's where we're looking at going that direction. And so we're clear is in that 10-year period, everything is in there, it won't be locked. There still can be text amendments done, as have been done in the past. But at that 10 period, the big comprehensive revision will open up the code completely. And then that's where a little more that the town would have to do is do that readoption process, which isn't much, but you wouldn't have that where you're locked in. That's what we're looking at. We're trying to get on that cycle to be the comprehensive plan and then this. It's just, we're running it basically simultaneously this time and then trying to get on the space. There's no other questions? Again, I thank you a lot for coming out tonight, participating. I'm sure the task force appreciates your input to come back to them. And we'll be asking for more input from the towns, workshops, so we're going to try to have some, like I said, quarterly, with our plans to touch base out with the towns and everything that way. So you'll be seeing me and Jeff out in the areas talking to them.
And just one more side note, if you have any issues or concerns, feel free to contact. I don't want to volunteer the task force, but you can probably contact Rick, I'm sure he's open to the idea.
Absolutely, if there's something that you don't wanna contact the office up there and you wanna talk about part of this, or you want me to come out to your townships as a part of the task force, I'd be more than happy to do that.
And we have also an open door policy, so if you want to come visit us and talk about this, we have an open door anytime.
And if for some reason you'd like us to come out to the town meeting, your residents want to hear something about what's going on or something like that, we can schedule something out too as part of that too. So those we need a little bit of time to make sure that we're open on your meeting nights, but
In fact, we have one scheduled.
yes, we do. So there's opportunities, like I said, everything that we would get, if you want to send it to me or Jeff, and we're going to talk with Rick, and then Rick will be presenting that to the committee. So, or the task force. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.